And good afternoon. You're listening to Ken Hudnall. This is the Ken Hudnall Show. Coming to you from our studios right here in exciting El Paso, Texas. Gateway to the Old West and the most haunted city in the country. Well, today is March the 10th, the 69th day of the year. 296 days remain to the year's over with. And coming up is Pi Day, March 14th. Need to keep that in mind. Holidays and observances. National Mario Day. That iconic Italian plumber on his adventures through fantastic worlds. Canberra Day. Adelaide Cup Day. For those not follow horse racing, Adelaide Cup is one of the most vibrant, anticipated events in South Australia. Features horse races, draws crowds to the Morfettville Racecourse. It's a major social event. People dress up, enjoy gourmet food, and listen to live music. It's a highlight of the South Australian social calendar. It's National Skirt Day, International Wig Day, Harriet Tubman Day. It honors her relentless fight for freedom of enslaved people. Her bravery and strategic skills helped many escape through the Underground Railroad. She just didn't seek her freedom. She dedicated her life to helping others secure theirs. International Day of Awesomeness. International Bagpipe Day. Get your bagpipe, put on your skirt, and go out and have a good time. Commonwealth Day in Canada. Paper Money Day. National Pack Your Lunch Day. International Day of Women Judges. Though I've met a few that should have followed another occupation. National Ranch Day. National Landline Telephone Day. Not many of those around anymore. National Peel Day. Festival of Life and Cracks Day. National Blueberry Popover Day. National Sending Day. Histotechnology Professionals Day. They turn the invisible world of tissues into vital information. You never had too much information. National Women and Girls HIV/AIDS Awareness Day. Fill Our Staplers Day. Commonwealth Day. World Glaucoma Day. Week. 8-hour day. National Button Week. National Bubblegum Week. Campfire USA Birthday Week. Moomba Festival. It's another Melbourne festival. Transformed the city with its energy and excitement. It's a multi-day event. Draws thousands of locals and visitors to the bank of the Yarra River. Flower and Patio Show. Girl Scout Week. Make Mine Chocolate. National Green Week. National Aardvark Week. Ramadan. Muslim Holy Month, where the Muslims fast from sunrise to sunset. Focuses on spiritual reflection and community. Goes from February 27th to March 28th. Universal Women's Week. Healthcare HR Week. Catholic Sisters Week. Patient Safety Awareness Week. Brain Awareness Week. Sleep Awareness Week. Endometriosis Awareness Week. National Groundwater Awareness Week. And Pulmonary Rehabilitation Week. Famous people born on this date: Olivia Wilde, the one and only Chuck Norris, John Hamm, Sharon Stone, Carrie Underwood. March 10th is part of National Colon Cancer Awareness Month, National Athletic Training Month, Veggie Month, Developmental Disability Awareness Month, National Reading Month, National Women's History Month, Greek American Heritage Month, Red Cross Month, National Sauce Month, National Nutrition Month, National Cerebral Palsy Awareness Month, National Flower Month, National Noodle Month, National Brain Injury Awareness Month, National March into Literacy Month, National Celery Month, and International Mirth Month. It's also the Great Daffodil Appeal. It's a UK celebration. Flowers are famous for symbolizing hope and support for those battling terminal illnesses. It's become quite the thing in the UK. Poison Prevention Awareness Month, National Crochet Month, Color Therapy Month, Workplace Eye Wellness Month, Adopt a Rescued Guinea Pig Month, Youth Art Month, Sing with Your Child Month, Read an ebook month, and I highly encourage you to do that, since if you go to Amazon or my website, and you'll see a lot of ebooks on both of them. National Ethics Awareness Month, Malignant Hyperthermia Awareness and Training Month, Gender Equality Month, Exotic Winter Fruit and Leeks and Green Onions Month, Academy Awards Month, Berries and Cherries Month, Honor Society Awareness Month, National Play the Recorder Month, National Social Work Month, National Small Press Month, National Hemophilia Awareness Month, National Peanut Month, National Credit Education Month, National Caffeine Awareness Month, Frozen Food Month, National Umbrella Month, Supply Management Month, March for Water. I was asked about that the other day. It's access to healthy water supplies is necessary for humans to live and thrive. And a lot of areas in the U.S., in fact across the world, have found their water supplies compromised in recent years. Maybe it's lead pipes, maybe it's infections, droughts to floods. The water supply in many communities is at risk. First celebrated in 2023, March for Water was founded with the International Association of Plumbing and Mechanical Officials to shine a spotlight on the ability communities have to build resilience related to water stress. Expanding Girls' Horizons in Science and Engineering Month, Spiritual Wellness Month, Middle Level Education Month, National Optimism Month, Gardening, Nature, and Ecology Books Month, Listening Awareness Month, Deep Vein Thrombosis Awareness Month, that's DVT, don't you know? Essential Tremor Awareness Month, Mad for Plaid Month, Colic Awareness Month, Trisomy Awareness Month, National Bed Month, Multiple Sclerosis Awareness Month, International Ideas Month, National Breast Implant Awareness Month, Employee Spirit Month, Alport Syndrome Awareness Month, Save Your Vision Month, Epilepsy Awareness Month, International Brain Tumor Awareness Month, Endometriosis Awareness Month, National Kidney Month, National Craft Month, National Music in Our Schools Month, and Irish American History Month. Well, 241 BC on this date, during the First Punic War, the Battle of the Agates, Romans sink the Carthaginian fleet, bringing the First Punic War to an end. 298 AD, Roman Emperor Maximian concludes his campaign in North Africa and makes a triumphal entry into Carthage. 947 AD, the later Han is founded by Lu Zihuan, declares himself emperor. 1496, after establishing the city of Santo Domingo, Christopher Columbus departs for Spain, leaving his brother in command. Never trust your relatives. 1535, Spaniard Fray Tomas de Baranga, the fourth bishop of Panama, discovers the Galapagos Islands by chance on his way to Peru. 1607, Susenyos I defeats the combined armies of Yaqub and Abuna Petros II at the Battle of Gaul and Gojam, making him Emperor of Ethiopia. 1629, Charles I dissolves the Parliament of England, beginning the 11-year period known as the Personal Rule. 1661, the French Sun King, Louis XIV, begins his personal rule of France after the death of his premier, the Cardinal Mazarin. 1735, an agreement between Nader Shah and Russia is signed near Ganja, Azerbaijan, and Russian troops are withdrawn from occupied territories. 1762, French Huguenot Jean Calais, who's been wrongly convicted of killing his son, dies after being tortured by authorities. This event inspired Voltaire to begin a campaign for religious tolerance and legal reform. In 1814, Emperor Napoleon I is defeated at the Battle of Lyon in France. 1830, the Royal Netherlands East Indies Army is created. 1831, the French Foreign Legion is created by Louis Philippe, the King of France, from foreign regiments of the Kingdom of France. 1848, the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo was ratified by the U.S. Senate, ending the Mexican-American War. 1861, El-Hajj Umar Tal seizes the city of Ségou, destroying the Bamana Empire of Mali. 1873, the first Azerbaijani play, Adventures of the Vizier of the King of Linkaran, prepared by Akundov, is performed by Hassan Bey Zardabi and dramatist and Najaf Bey Vizarov. 1876, the first successful test of a telephone is made by Alexander Graham Bell. 1891, Almond Stoger patents the Stoger switch, a device that led to the automation of telephone circuit switching. 1906, the Corrèze mine disaster, Europe's worst ever, kills 1,099 miners in northern France. 1909, by signing the Anglo-Siamese Treaty of 1909, Thailand relinquishes its sovereignty over the Malay states of Kedah, Kelantan, Perlis, and Terengganu, which became British protectorates. 1922, Mahatma Gandhi is arrested in India, tried for sedition, and sentenced to 6 years in prison, only to be released after nearly 2 years for an appendicitis operation. 1933, the Long Beach earthquakes affects the greater Los Angeles area, leaving about 108 people dead. 1944, the Greek Civil War. Political Committee of National Liberation is established in Greece by the National Liberation Front. 1945, World War II. U.S. Army Air Force firebombs Tokyo, and the resulting conflagration kills more than 100,000 people, mostly civilians. 1949, Mildred Gallars, known as Axis Sally, is convicted of treason. 1952, Fulgencio Batista leads a successful coup in Cuba. 1959, Tibetan uprising. Fearing an abduction attempt by China, thousands of Tibetans surround the Dalai Lama's palace to prevent his removal. 1966, military prime minister of South Vietnam, Nguyen Cao Ky, sacks rival general Nguyen Con Thi, and precipitating large-scale civil and military dissension in parts of the nation. 1969, in Memphis, Tennessee, James Earl Ray pleads guilty to assassinating Martin Luther King. Later unsuccessfully attempts to recant. He clearly had a lot of help, and he never would name anybody. 1970, Vietnam War. Captain Ernest Medina is charged by the U.S. military with My Lai war crimes. The 1971, John Gorton resigns as Prime Minister of Australia and the leader of the Liberal Party of Australia after a secret ballot vote of confidence being replaced in both positions by William McMahon. 1974, Belgian general election. Elections are held in Belgium for all 212 seats in the Chamber of Representatives. The Belgian Socialist Party taking a majority with 59. 1975, Vietnam War. Ho Chi Minh campaign. North Vietnamese troops attack Ban Me Tout in the south on their way to capturing Saigon in the final push for victory over South Vietnam. Had the suits, as they were referred to, stayed out of trying to run the war, we would have won. That's my opinion. 1977, astronomers discovered the rings of Uranus. 1979, International Women's Day protest in Tehran. protester involvement peaks with 15,000 Iranian women and girls performing a 3-hour-long sit-in at the courthouse of Tehran. Did not do a whole heck of a lot of good. 1982. Zitty guy. All 9 planets recognized at this time, Mercury to Pluto, align on the same side of the sun. 1989. Air Ontario Flight 1363, a Falca F-28 Fellowship, crashes at Dryden Regional Airport in Dryden, Ontario, Canada, killed 24 people. 1990, in Haiti, Prosper Avril is ousted 18 months after seizing power in a coup d'etat in September 1988. 1991, Salvadorian legislative election. The Nationalist Republican Alliance wins 39 of the 84 seats in the Legislative Assembly of El Salvador. 2000, the dot-com bubble peaks with the Nasdaq Composite Stock Market Index reaching 5,048.62. 2006, the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter arrives at Mars. 2017, the impeachment of President Park Geun-hye of South Korea in response to a major political scandal is unanimously upheld by the country's constitutional court. It ended her presidency. 2019, Ethiopian Airlines Flight 302, a Boeing 737 MAX, crashes shortly after taking off, killed all 157 passengers and crew on board. This and the prior Lion Air Flight 610 led to all 387 Boeing 737 MAX aircraft being grounded worldwide. 2022, the 2022 Hungarian election. The National Assembly of Hungary elects former Minister of Family Affairs Katalin Novak as President of Hungary in a 137 to 51 vote, becoming the first female president in the country's history. 2023, Silicon Valley Bank collapse due to a run on its deposits, and the second largest bank failure in U.S. history. Operations are taken over by the FDIC. 2024, the 2024 Portuguese legislative election. Elections are held in Portugal for all 230 seats in the Assembly of the Republic. The Partido Socialista loses its absolute majority in the Partido Social Democrats, winning 77 and 79 seats respectively. Well, that ends our little history segment. We're going to see what news stories might be of interest. There's always something new in the news these days. Now, Trump's going to sign a disaster relief order, putting states and localities in the driver's seat regarding the catastrophic responses. It's going to establish the National Resilience Strategy. They want to restore state, local, and individual empowerment in disaster preparedness response, inject some common sense into infrastructure prioritization and strategic investments through risk-informed decisions to make our infrastructure, communities, and economy more resilient to global and dynamic threats and hazards. That's according to the order. There's been a cyber attack that crippled X, and Musk says the cyber attack was done with a lot of resources, suggesting a large coordinated group and or country is involved. He's going to track them down. Trump administration ends waiver allowing Iraq to buy Iranian electricity as part of a maximum pressure campaign. Iraq could lose more than 30% of its electrical energy if imports of Iranian natural gas are closed off as well. But it's time to quit playing around. Doge lawmakers look to defund Biden's anemic-paced $3 billion EV postal truck Boondoggle. It's being described as another failure of former President Joe Biden's so-called inflation fix. Bidenomics just did not work, and nobody seemed to realize it until now. The bill was authorized under former President Biden's Inflation Reduction Act, was going to create an electric vehicle fleet for the U.S. Postal Service. There's a religious slaughter in Syria, shows the need for U.S. and Europe to keep a close eye on the Islamist regime. That's according to the Greek foreign minister. This is the bloodiest internal clash since Bashar al-Assad's ouster, and it broke out this weekend. Democratic Party's image is the weakest position since the Reagan-Bush era. That's according to CNN political analyst. If you talk to Democrats, they recognize they're in a hole, according to CNN's talking heads. Los Angeles District Attorney Nathan Hochman is getting involved in the Menendez brothers case. He's asked to withdraw his predecessor's motion to free the killers. The brothers' uncle, Milton Anderson, an outspoken critic of the release, died March 3rd at the age of 90. Eric and Lyle Menendez had hoped to be out now without parole. He said the brothers failed to come clean about a motive or display meaningful self-reflection and warrant a resentencing. Social media exploded at Bernie Sanders for hosting a trans musician who sang pure evil at an anti-Trump rally. He's a senator from Vermont. He's an independent. He's anti-Trump, anti-oligarch, and this was a tour of the U.S. trying to gin up some support for the Democrats. According to conservative activist Robbie Starbuck, the song specifically attacked Christianity with mentions of Easter and God's Son. One American college student vanished in the Dominican Republic. It's believed she drowned in a big wave. Sudexa Kanaki, last seen on Thursday in the Dominican Republic, 20 years old, from Northern Virginia. Reported missing Thursday in Punta Cana after last being seen on a beach at the five-star Rio Republico resort. She's part of a group of 6 female University of Pittsburgh students traveling to the area. Last seen, she's walking on the beach. And then she disappeared. Well, in a race, a teen athlete bashed their opponent in the head with the baton they were carrying. Claims it was an accident. She's very upset about the backlash she's receiving. She said, okay, my opponent was physically hurt, but you're not thinking about my mental state. Well, AOC says she's going on the offense to rally red district voters against Trump. She said Democrats should take a page from Senator Bernie Sanders' playbook, and that doesn't seem to be doing very well. If you notice, every picture you see of AOC, her mouth is open. She's always yelling at somebody about something. John Goodman suffered an injury on the set of a Tom Cruise movie. To be hospitalized. The maker of Ozempic, Novo Nordisk, expects to file for regulatory approval in 2026. They Well, scandal-scarred former Governor Andrew Cuomo of New York is the front-runner in New York City mayoral race. He resigned as New York governor in 2021 amid multiple scandals. But he's leading embattled Mayor Eric Adams in the latest New York City polls. Well, Maryland has confirmed its first measles case at a major D.C. airport. Well, it's interesting to note that a lot of the executive orders signed by President Biden, were done by a machine. It's not believed he ever saw them. So the question becomes, who was running the country for that 4 years? A former Obama advisor, Van Jones, has exposed what he calls a dirty little secret. He said the Democratic Party is screwed. They don't know what to do. Democratic Party's approval rating fell to 31% after President Trump was elected. They basically are in a nightmare they created. Freedom Caucus member Anna Paulina Luna has joined AOC to try to get a 10% credit card interest rate cap. One of the first things AOC's ever done that I agree with. Well, convicted Pentagon leaker Jack Teixeira faces court-martial. He was a Massachusetts Air National Guard member, facing court-martial at Hanscom Air Force Base, already serving a 15-year sentence. But he leaked highly classified military documents about the war in Ukraine online. Pled guilty last March to 6 counts of willful retention and transmission of national defense information under the Espionage Act. Family transferred their dream home into an egg farm. They got 68,000 chickens. Well, a lot of strangeness has come to light in regard to the Gene Hackman death. New study shows Hamas's role in controlling aid distribution and starvation claims against Israel. Alrighty. Well, that pretty much took care of that. You know, we've been talking in our last show on Friday about strange crimes and stupid criminals. We're going to talk some more about that today. You know, not every crime makes sense. I'm going to start out talking about vigilante justice. Now, in this particular event, Roy Gendron broke into a house in Alabama. Homeowner's son, Richard Busey, caught Gendron loading furniture and other items into his truck. And Busey had a gun in his car, as many people in Alabama do, so he pulled it on Gendron. But he didn't have a telephone. and really didn't know what to do next, so he made the burglar mow the lawn with a push mower while he thought about it. Eventually, he took Gendron's driver's license, which the police used to track down and arrest the thief a short time later. Assistant DA Brian McVeigh told reporters if he ever found himself in a similar situation, he said, I'd try to get some yard work out of the guy, too. And if you've ever mowed a yard with a push mower, that would, in my humble opinion, fall under cruel and unusual punishment. Well, in 2003, 18-year-old Michael Watt walked into a health food store, pulled out a knife, and demanded money. There was only one employee there at the time, 48-year-old Lorraine Avery. She refused to give him any money. She said, I thought he's not having our money. I worked hard for it. Looked for something to hit the thief with and couldn't find anything. So she grabbed an industrial-sized bottle of salad dressing and pointed it at him and told him to get out. Well, Watt wouldn't go, so she started squirting him with the salad dressing. She said he kept coming at me with the knife, and I kept squirting him, and eventually it worked. The would-be robber left the store, and police were able to track him down. They found the trail of salad dressing he left behind. As you can see, sometimes the best laid plans of criminals don't work out. Well, let's talk about the case of the famous phony. It was 1906. Shoemaker and career criminal Wilhelm Vogt is released from a German prison after a 15-year sentence for robbery. His identity card and passport were revoked. He was broke. Then he remembered how he had learned to mimic the speech and mannerisms of Prussian officers whose boots he'd mended when he was young. So he came up with an idea. Bought a second-hand army uniform, went to a local army barracks. When a corporal and 5 privates came marching by, he stepped in, started barking orders, and instantly became the leader of a tiny army. He marched down the road, collecting 5 more men and a bus along the way. And once at Köpenick, Vogt marched his men at the town hall and pretended to inspect the accounts. Had the mayor arrested and helped himself to 4,000 marks from the treasury. The mayor was sent in custody to military headquarters in Berlin, and Captain Vogt vanished. Well, 9 days later, Captain Vogt was captured and arrested. The story made headlines around the world and unintentionally brought world attention to the abusers of the German prison system. Some believe that Kaiser Wilhelm pardoned the lifelong crook. He'd already spent 27 of his 57 years in prison for petty crimes. It's thought that Kaiser Wilhelm found the entire thing funny and said, I'm not going to lock him up for that. Well, sometimes committing crimes looks glamorous and fun on the screen, but if you try it in real life, the result doesn't always work out the way you think it's going to. In a 1971 film, The Godfather, Corleone family henchman imitate a Hollywood mogul by killing his prize racehorse and sticking the horse's head in his bed. Well, in 1997, 2 New York crooks decided to use a similar method to intimidate a witness scheduled to testify against them. On the morning of the trial, the witness found an unwelcome surprise on his doorstep. One of the crooks later admitted we wanted to leave a cow's head because his wife came from India and they consider cows sacred. But they couldn't find a cow's head in Brooklyn. So they went to a butcher and got a goat's head. They said they thought it was close enough. It wasn't. They both went to prison. The story doesn't say what happened to the goat. Well, in 1996, 17-year-old Steve Barone of Royal Palm Beach, Florida, was really into Pulp Fiction, Reservoir Dogs, and Goodfellas. After he was caught trying to rob a gun store, he claimed he'd been taken over by another personality. Combination of the wise guys from those 3 crime movies. Judge rejected the Pulp Fiction defense, as it was called, and sentenced Mr. Vincent Vega Henry Hill White to 4 years in prison. Sometimes you got to do what you got to do. Well, over the course of 14 months in 1984 and 85, a maniacal serial killer terrorized Los Angeles, targeting his victims at random. It was a string of home invasions that left at least a dozen people dead. Police had few leads in the case till a partial fingerprint on a stolen car led them to Richard Ramirez, a 25-year-old satanic drug addict who fit the description. And he'd been in trouble with the law before. Ramirez's mugshot was plastered everywhere, and a massive manhunt began. But Ramirez didn't know a thing about it. He spent the night on a bus ride home from Arizona. When he got to the Greyhound station in East Los Angeles on a hot August morning, he hopped off the bus and walked right past officers who were looking for somebody getting on a bus. Ramirez, wearing a Jack Daniels t-shirt, walked into a corner store, and the old woman in the store started yelling, "El Maton, El Maton," which translates as "the killer, the killer." Ramirez looked up at the woman and noticed his own face on the front page of the newspaper and realized the jig was up. He ran out of the store, crossed the highway, jumped the fence, started running through backyards where, according to the L.A. Police Commander William Booth, at least one man hit him with barbecue utensils. Well, Ramirez escaped that predicament and instantly found himself in another when he jumped into a running Ford Mustang that belonged to 60-year-old Faustino Pinon's daughter. Well, unfortunately for Ramirez, Faustino was underneath the car working on it at the time. He shimmied out, was able to grab Ramirez before he could drive away. Ramirez says, "I have a gun." And Faustino replied, "I don't care what you got. You're not taking my daughter's car." Well, after a brief struggle, Ramirez ran across the street and tried to steal Angelina De La Torres' car. She screamed for her husband, who ran out, grabbed a metal pipe, and whacked Ramirez over the head with it. Well, by this point, several other neighbors were joining in the fracas, and before Ramirez knew it, he was bleeding, being chased down Hubbard Street by several large men. Well, eventually they caught up with him and beat the bejesus out of the Night Stalker. Interestingly enough, one of the best quotes I've seen about crime came from G. Gordon Liddy. He said, "Obviously crime pays, or there wouldn't be any crime." Well, he has a good point. Well, sometimes you need to be careful about what you post on the internet. A young lady named Jennifer Harrington posted on her Facebook page a video that showed her and some friends manufacturing meth. And watching the video was Franklin County, Missouri Detective Jason Grellner. Well, as you might guess, the video led to several arrests for drug offenses. Well, as part of their Facebook Warrant Wednesday program, Columbus, Ohio police posted a mugshot of Monica Hargrove. Well, Monica wasn't very happy with how she looked in that photo, and she called the police and said, "I want my picture taken down." So a detective told her, "Come on in, we'll talk about it." So she did, and was immediately arrested on an outstanding warrant that put her on the department's Facebook page in the first place. You gotta wonder just how dumb you have to be. Well, in 2014, after eluding North Carolina police for 9 months on felony burglary charges, Bradley Hardison entered a donut eating contest. He wolfed down 8 glazed donuts in 2 minutes to win. Well, this was a good news, bad news situation. The bad news was the contest was part of the Elizabeth City Police Department's National Night Out Against Crime event. And the police newspaper printed Hardison's picture as the winner the next day. The police had their man. The deputy who arrested him said, "Well, I did congratulate him. I mean, he can certainly eat a lot of donuts, but we had to arrest him." Well, you had to be living under a rock to not know who Jack Ruby was. He was a Dallas strip club owner and small-time mobster who killed Lee Harvey Oswald, the man alleged to have killed President John Kennedy. Now, why Ruby may have done that is still a mystery. But on November 24, 1963, in the basement of the Dallas jail, of all places, which was crowded at the time with police officers, reporters, and cameramen, Ruby walked right up to Oswald and shot him once in the side. Gun he used was a .38 caliber Colt Cobra revolver that he bought at Ray's Hardware and Sporting Goods actually bought the gun on the advice of Dallas Police Detective Joe Cody. Well, after all was said and done, the gun was returned to Ruby's family, where it promptly became entangled in a legal battle over Ruby's estate between the lawyer who was appointed executor and Ruby's brother Earl. And it wouldn't be resolved until 1991, when a judge found for Earl Ruby, who immediately put the gun up for auction and sold it to a collector named A.V. Puglisi for $220,000. In 1992, a friend of Puglisi brought it to Washington, D.C., and offered to show it to Speaker of the House Tom Foley. Well, the gun was seized by police, almost destroyed, because D.C. has very strict gun control laws. But lawyers were able to get it back. On November 24, 1993, the 30th anniversary of the shooting, Puglisi had Earl Ruby fire 100 shots with the gun and offered the spent shells for sale for $2,500 each. Amazingly enough, they only sold a few. And you have to wonder about the people that bought them. Well, let's talk about the real stories behind a popularly circulated crime story. According to the story, a traveler visiting New York City meets an attractive woman in a bar and takes her back to his hotel room. Next thing he knows, he wakes up in a bathtub filled with ice and surgical tubing has come out of 2 freshly stitched wounds on his lower chest. There's a note beside the tub, and it said, "Call 911, we removed your left kidney." Now, the doctors in the emergency room told him he's the victim of thieves who steal organs for transplants. Well, French folklorist Veronique Campion Vincent had traced that story to Honduras and Guatemala, where rumors began circulating in 1987 that babies were being kidnapped and murdered for their organs. The alleged culprit, wealthy Americans needing transplants. From there, the story spread to South America, then all over the world. Wherever such stories surface, including here in the U.S., newspapers report them as fact. Well, national and international agencies have investigated the claims and haven't been able to substantiate even a single case of organ theft anywhere in the world. These incredible stories ignored the complexity of organ transplant operations, according to Jan Brunwald and the baby train and other lusty urban legends. And this would preclude any such quick removal and long-distance shipment of body parts. In other words, it may not be a true story, which may shock many people. Because if it's on the internet, you know it's been checked and double-checked, and it has to be true. Well, let's talk about the city of Perm, Russia. They spent a fortune on a crime-fighting robot designed to patrol streets and beam video to police stations, alerting officers to crimes in progress. After just 3 hours on the job, this super sophisticated 6-foot-tall, egg-shaped robot broke down. And you'll never guess why it broke down. It was raining, and it shorted out the robot's electrical system. Somebody did not think this through. Well, let's talk about the youngest and the oldest convicted murderers. The youngest is 12-year-old Curtis Jones, convicted in 1999. The oldest, Leonard Nathan Sherman, Daly City, California. He was 85 in 1999 when he got life in prison for shooting his sister. Now, sometimes the sisters can be very annoying. Well, let's talk about Alfred Packer. self-proclaimed mountain man, also known as an American cannibal. Born in Colorado in 1847, he drifted into the Utah Territory, supported himself as a small-time con artist. Fall of 1873 persuaded 20 greenhorns to grubstake an expedition to the headwaters of the Gunnison River in Colorado Territory. He swore that the stream was full of gold and promised to lead them to it if they financed the operation. Well, with Packer leading the group, they plunged into the San Juan Mountains and promptly got lost. The party was near starvation when they stumbled upon the winter quarters of the friendly Ute tribe. That's Ute tribe. The Utes nursed them back to health, but the leader, Chief Ouray, advised them to turn back. Winter snows had blocked all the trails. 10 of the party listened and returned to Utah. The other 10, who still believed Alfred Packard was telling the truth, and drawn by those tales of gold-filled creeks, continued on into the mountains. Days later, exhausted and out of food again, they found refuge in a deserted cabin. Now, most are now ready to give up and go back to Salt Lake City. The exception was Alfred Packer. When the others fell asleep, he shot 4 of them in the head, and the 5th woke up and tried to defend himself, but Packer killed him with the barrel of his rifle. Then he robbed them and used them for food. He packed enough human jerky to get back to Los Pinos Indian Agency. When he arrived, he shocked everybody by asking for whiskey instead of food. And suspicions grew when he flashed a big bankroll of cash. His explanations were vague and contradictory. First, he claimed he was attacked by natives. Then he claimed that some of his party had gone mad and attacked him. August 4th, 1874, 2 of Chief Ouray's braves found human remains. General Charles Adams locked him up and dispatched a lawman named Lauter to the cabin to investigate. While Lauter was away, Packer escaped. Went back to Utah and lived quietly for 10 years as John Swartz, until a member of the original party recognized him. Packer was immediately arrested on March 12, 1884, and returned to Colorado for trial. Well, he claimed innocence, but as the evidence against him mounted, he finally confessed. He reveled in the attention his trial gave him, and even lectured on the merits of human flesh. Judge wasn't impressed by all the hoopla, though, and reportedly said, "Alfred G. Packer, you're no good son of a bitch. You're going to hang by the neck until dead." However, the crime was committed in 1873 in the territory of Colorado. Trial began in 1884 in the new state of Colorado. And the state constitution, which was adopted in 1876, didn't address such a crime, so the charge is reduced to manslaughter, and Packer was sentenced to prison. Model prisoner paroled up to 16 years. 1907, Alfred G. Packer, the American cannibal, died quietly in his sleep. Well, sometimes when the FBI can't find a body, they call in the big dogs, so to speak. Now, bomb-sniffing dogs can smell materials used to make explosives. Drug-sniffing dogs can sniff out marijuana stashed in a school locker. Human remains detection canines, or HRD dogs, are trained to recognize the smell of death. And they do it with amazing accuracy. A trained dog can detect the scent of a dead body on the ground, even if it was removed from the spot a year earlier. HRD training starts with fresh scent sources. Dogs learn to sniff out hair and bone and teeth and tissue and blood and other bodily fluids, but not from live humans, only from corpses. By the end of the training, HRD dogs can find bodies both above and below the ground. They can even tell if a body's been dumped in a lake. How might they do that, you ask? By sniffing the water's surface for tiny gas bubbles seeping from corpses rotting underwater. Well, the FBI usually calls in HRD dogs to find a specific missing person. If that person's a murder victim, finding the body is a crucial step in solving the crime. So I guess you could say, thanks to the HRD dogs, the FBI knows where'd it look? Well, there's been a lot of whistleblowers in the news. Let's talk about an FBI whistleblower. In the 1990s, Frederick Whitehurst became the first agent to successfully blow a whistle on misconduct in the FBI. He held a doctorate in chemistry from Duke University. He was a senior explosive expert in the FBI's crime lab. And when the FBI concluded the suspects in the first World Trade Center bombing in 1993 had manufactured a urea nitrate explosive, he saw irregularities in the report. In 1993, we were in New York. And on the day of the explosion, we were en route to the Trade Center. Stopped to pick my glasses up from LensCrafters, and they couldn't find them. So it took us a while for them to locate them, and by the time we got there, the bomb had gone off, and we weren't allowed to go into the area where the bomb had gone off, which is where we were heading to start with. Well, Whitehurst conducted his own investigation and concluded there was no proof and that the urea that could have come from 80 gallons of sewage scattered over the bomb wreckage. Contrary to his analysis, the FBI put an unqualified lab technician on the stand to testify it was a urea bomb. So Whitehurst performed a double-blind test to show a urea nitrate mixture made from fertilizer had properties identical to those of urine. When Whitehurst's analysis was submitted to the court, the lab technician who testified conceded he couldn't tell the difference. Until the suspects were convicted, the episode embarrassed the FBI, which relieved Whitehurst of his duties and assigned him to another section of the lab. He filed suit alleging violation of whistleblower statutes, and the suit was settled out of court for $1.16 million. 1997, he achieved vindication when the Inspector General for the U.S. Department of Justice ordered a major revamp of the crime lab based on the 1993 case. As a result, the lab implemented 40 major reforms, including an accreditation process to prevent future lapses. Well, back in the 1500s, when Henry VIII yanked England away from the Catholicism because he wanted a divorce and wanted to marry a younger woman, people who stayed with the Catholic Church were accused of being traitors. When James I inherited the throne in 1603, the persecution continued. Priests were expelled from the country, and Catholics who didn't attend Anglican services were fined. And one fed-up Catholic, Robert Catesby, launched a plot to change all that. 1604, he gathered a band of followers that included Guy Fawkes, a formidable soldier and explosives expert, and rented a cellar in the Parliament building. The idea was, while the king addressed the legislators, Fawkes would blow up the building. Others would kidnap James's young daughter Elizabeth and force her to rule as their puppet and Catholic queen. Well, by October 1605, Guy Fawkes had hidden 36 barrels of gunpowder in the cellar, and conspirators were all set to give the king an explosive surprise November 5th. But, amazingly enough, an anonymous letter alerted the House of Lords to stay away from Parliament that day. So instead of blowing up the building on November 5th, Fawkes was captured and tortured until he finally admitted the plot. Catesby and his men were hunted down, and those who weren't immediately killed were drawn and quartered. King James made November 5th a holiday because uncovering the plot saved his life, so everybody was supposed to be happy. Today, the English still celebrate Guy Fawkes Night with bonfires and fireworks, but history remembers it as one of the world's most famous fizzled terror plots. And according to Ice-T, if women didn't like criminals, there wouldn't be any crime, which is a good point. Well, one last story, and I think that's it for today. Tony Sirico, who played Polly Walnuts Gauthieri on Sopranos, was a star at that time. Probably the only Sopranos star whose real-life rap sheet is as long as that of the mobster character he played. He was arrested 28 times for robbery and other crimes as a young man. He was serving time in New York's Sing Sing prison in the early 70s when an ex-con acting troupe called the Theater of the Forgotten staged a play there. He told an interview in 2003 he was captivated by the magic of the performance. He said it was a major step in me getting my life straight. After his release, he called a friend, actor Richard Castellano, who played mobster Peter Clemenza on the 1972 film The Godfather, and asked for help breaking into acting. So Castellano helped him land a part in the 1974 mob film Crazy Joe. He said that film got me a Screen Actors Guild card, which gave me a life instead of a life sentence. Well, Sirico says he got the best advice of his career at his very first acting class. He was his 30-year-old ex-con villain sitting in a class filled with fresh-faced serious drama students. The instructor leaned over to him after he did a scene and whispered, Tony, leave the gun home. And he meant for him to also leave his former life behind in order to be an actor. And certainly he thought that was excellent advice. If you're in acting class, you don't need to shoot anybody. Well, on that note, we come to the end of today's show. We'll be back tomorrow. And once again, you'll be listening to Ken Hudnall, the Ken Hudnall Show. Until then, have a truly great evening.